Queen Lyra of the Valerian Empire stood at the observation deck of her flagship, watching the human vessel dock with practiced precision. The marriage alliance between her people and Earth had been a political necessity, though she harbored genuine curiosity about the species that had recently emerged onto the galactic stage. Humans were considered physically unremarkable by most civilized races, their technology primitive compared to the advanced civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia. Her betrothed, Captain Marcus Thompson, had arrived 3 cycles, ego as Earth's diplomatic representative. He appeared ordinary by human standards, standing barely 6 feet tall with brown hair and calm gray eyes. The Valerians, like most elder races, towered over humans by at least 2 feet, their graceful forms and ethereal beauty making them seem almost godlike in comparison. Marcus had conducted himself with quiet dignity during the negotiations, speaking little but observing much. "Your Majesty," her aide whispered, "the ceremony preparations are complete." Lyra nodded, adjusting the ceremonial crown that marked her as ruler of 12 star systems. The marriage would secure Earth's protection under Valerian law while granting her empire access to human trade routes through the dangerous Outer Rim territories. A fair exchange, she believed, though she wondered what challenges awaited in understanding such a different species. The wedding proceeded according to ancient Valerian tradition within the great hall of her flagship. Marcus stood beside her, appearing calm despite being surrounded by beings whose casual strength could crush stone. He spoke his vows in fluent Valerian, having learned the language with surprising speed. Lyra found herself impressed by his dedication to understanding her culture. "I pledge my strength to defend you and your people," Marcus said, the traditional words carrying weight among her kind where physical prowess determined social standing. The assembled nobles barely contained their amusement. What strength could this small human possibly offer their mighty queen? Lyra herself felt a flicker of pity for her new husband, knowing he meant well despite his obvious limitations. Their first months together proved surprisingly pleasant. Marcus demonstrated remarkable intelligence and tactical insight, helping her resolve several complex diplomatic disputes through careful negotiation rather than the traditional shows of force. He studied Valerian history voraciously and showed genuine interest in her people's culture. Still, Lyra noticed he carefully avoided the combat training sessions and physical competitions that formed the backbone of Valerian society. The test came during their visit to the mining colony of Kepler 7th. The remote world produced rare crystals essential for faster-than-light travel, making it a valuable target for raiders. As their shuttle descended through the atmosphere, proximity alarms began screaming warnings. "Unknown vessels approaching from the asteroid field," reported the pilot. "Configuration matches Kronix battle cruisers." Lyra's blood chilled. The Kronix were savage raiders who showed no mercy to conquered populations. Their massive forms and brutal strength made them feared throughout the galaxy. 3 of their warships now bore down on the defenseless colony, their hulls bristling with weapons. "Get us to the surface immediately," Lyra commanded. "We need to evacuate the civilians." The shuttle landed near the main settlement as the first Kronix landing pods began raining from the sky. Within minutes, towering 8-foot warriors emerged, their reptilian features twisted with bloodthirsty anticipation. The colony's small security force, composed entirely of Valerians, prepared to make their stand. Marcus watched silently as the defenders took positions behind hastily erected barricades. The approaching Kronix moved with terrifying purpose, their advanced armor gleaming in the alien sunlight. Lyra drew her ceremonial blade, knowing it would likely be her final battle. "Stay behind me," she told Marcus. "When they break through, run for the emergency bunker." The first wave hit like a tsunami of violence. Despite their skill and courage, the Valerian defenders were overwhelmed by superior numbers and brutal tactics. One by one, they fell back toward the central plaza, where civilians huddled in terror. Lyra fought with desperate fury, but even her royal training could not overcome the mounting odds. A massive Kronix warrior, larger than his companions, burst through the defensive line and charged directly toward her. His war club, studded with metal spikes, would crush her skull with a single blow. Lyra raised her blade, knowing she had perhaps seconds to live. Then Marcus stepped forward, The human moved with fluid grace that seemed to slow time itself. His hand shot out and caught the descending war club mid-swing, stopping the massive weapon as if it had struck an immovable wall. The Chronix warriors' eyes widened in shock as Marcus's fingers began to bend the metal handle. With his other hand, Marcus struck once. The blow appeared gentle, almost casual, but the 8-foot Chronix warrior flew backward through the air and crashed into a stone, building with enough force to crack the wall. He did not get up. Silence fell across the battlefield as every eye turned toward the human who had just accomplished the impossible. Marcus stood calmly, brushing dust from his uniform as if nothing remarkable had occurred. "Honey," he said, to Lyra in a conversational tone, "you might want to get the civilians clear. This could get messy." What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. Marcus moved through the Chronix forces like a force of nature, his every movement precise and devastating. Warriors who could shatter steel with their bare hands found themselves helpless against his seemingly effortless strength. He caught energy blasts in his palms and redirected them back at their sources. When 3 Chronix attacked simultaneously, he defeated them so quickly that observers could barely follow his movements. Within 10 minutes, the entire raiding force lay unconscious or in full retreat. Their warships, apparently deciding that discretion was the better part of valor, disappeared back into the asteroid field. The colony was saved, its people staring in amazement at the unassuming human who had single-handedly turned the tide. Lyra approached her husband with something approaching awe. "Marcus, how is this possible? Humans are supposed to be one of the weaker species?" Marcus smiled sheepishly, running a hand through his hair. "Well, technically that's true. Most humans are about as strong as your people think, but I'm not exactly most humans." "What do you mean?" "Earth has been part of the galactic community for 50 years now. We've had time to study your medical technology, your enhancement techniques, your training methods. I've spent the last 20 years preparing for this assignment." He gestured around the devastated plaza. "Turns out human physiology responds really well to Valerian strength enhancement protocols. Something about our bone density and muscle fiber composition." Lyra stared at him. "You've been enhanced?" "Enhanced, trained, and optimized for integration with Elder Race Society. Earth's government wanted to make sure their diplomatic representative could handle himself in dangerous situations." Marcus's expression grew serious. "I didn't mention it before because I wanted you to judge me for who I am, not what I can do." As they stood together among the grateful colonists, Lyra felt a new appreciation for both her husband and his remarkable species. Humans might be newcomers to the galactic stage, but they possessed something perhaps more valuable than raw strength: the wisdom to adapt and the determination to exceed all expectations. "So," she said, taking his hand, "what other surprises should I expect from humanity?" Marcus grinned. "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet.